Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Fireside chat of the evening. I'm very delighted to have Mohit, founder of Minimalist, with us. I should start off with an honest confession. I don't believe in regrets in life, but not investing in Minimalist is one of the few regrets that I do have. Because what Mohit pulled off is a stuff of dreams for both founders and investors alike. Built a brand, scaled it to 500 crores in under 4 years. Phenomenal pace. But the more important thing is he was profitable every single year in that journey. And I think in all, you used less than 100 crores to reach that scale and scored the biggest exit in BPC. So, lots to unpack in the conversation. We have very limited time. But thanks for joining us, Mohit.
No, thanks for the kind words. And thanks for having me here. When I entered this space, I saw a lot of founders, investors, and all. And I also saw some questions that Hari has shared. To be honest, I don't know, what you guys don't know already about startup, investing, numbers, valuations. But yeah, I'll try and answer as much as I can.
Super. So, let's dive right into it. I think I'll start off with what you pulled off, which was, exceptional, which is being profitable every single year, right? We always see that as a journey. Brands start out being loss-making and eventually get to profitability. So it'll be useful to just talk to the group about certain strategic decisions you took, guardrails you had. Maybe you could get into pricing, customer acquisition strategy, etc. How did you manage to pull that off?
Okay. I think you can't start with just the pricing. You have to understand where the market is, the competition. You can be, little bit premium depending on what value you're offering. But you can't be too different where the market is. If, say, Minimalist would have been in 1500 plus price point, I think the outcome would have been very different, right? So you have to be where the market is. And based on that, you have to figure out, where your costs and other costs are. I think broadly, if you simplify and see any consumer brand, there are 3 large cost components. One is cost of the product, second is the marketing, and then rest. And more often, the brands which are not making a lot of money are spending mostly on marketing. Can you control the first transaction? The answer is no. Our customer acquisition can be maybe similar or somewhat lower compared to most other brands. I think with time, the only way to run it more sustainably and profitably is having repeat. So if your repeats, referrals, these 2 things are not kicking in, no other optimization can help scale the brand purely profitably. I think, you can be some bit in terms of tactics and all, but these are the 2 levers that has to work. And when you say, we have been growing profitably, I think every quarter, these are 2 numbers we have been closely tracking. There are 2 types of businesses that I've seen so far. I think, you're creating something that already exists in terms of the demand. Or are you creating a new demand in the market? If you're creating a new demand that don't exist, initially brands do spend money. And I think so far we've seen largely that in tech companies when, say, Ola, Uber started, this entire category, you're building habits. But skincare not building habit. People are anyways buying some other product. End of the day, you're just catering to the demand that already exists. Do you have a better product? And people buy it once and do not buy again. Rather than spending more in marketing, I think it's better to go back, fix the product, fix the proposition before you scale. Because none of those things will get fixed on its own at scale. These are the honest thing that as a founder you should know. As a founder, you're always selling to your team, to your investor, to your colleagues and all. But you need to have this honest conversation with yourself that, do you really think that, I have something which is 10x better than the market? And, again, one thing that we felt, there's no space for a brand if you're 5% better, 10% better. There's enough competition. You'll be lost in this, so many brands and the sea, right? Any product, anything that you're doing, if you feel this is exceptionally better, returns will happen. And I think that will lead a sustainable, profitable growth.
Yeah, so what I'm picking up is, just focusing on product, make it 10x better, and focus on repeats, and the capital efficiency should follow.
Yeah, I think, if I again divide this into three parts, right? Mentally, how we used to look at. There are distribution companies, and these are the companies that were built before your 2010 and all, right? You have advantage of scale, and just because of distribution, able to build brand. I think then there are companies which are built on distribution, also on e-com, because I'm first on e-com, I'm more agile. But now I think every company have the same advantage. Your platforms, distribution is democratized. Your marketing is democratized. We are not living in a time in which it has to be like OTT, TVs and all. Digital has created the same level playing field, right? A company with maybe 5 crore of budget can do the same thing the company with maybe 500 crore, if I'm optimized on that. Right now, I think the brand which are being built and which will build in future are the brand which are differentiated on product, because the marketing and distribution are exactly the table stakes or something that everyone has access to.
Fair. And I know the room has a lot of founders in the 0 to 100 crore journey. And I mentioned that he pulled off a 500 crore business on the back of just 100 crores consumed. So how would you guide the founders on thinking through capital raising, right? Maybe let's talk through the 0 to product market fit phase and product market fit to 100 crores. Knowing what you know today, how should they think about the quantum of capital that they should be raising?
So it depends again, I said, where are you deploying this capital? So, when we raise our round, we thought of our run rate or where the business will be, say, next 2 years. And because we are doing our own manufacturing, we thought of what will be our capex and what will be the working capital requirement or maybe certain buffer that we need to have. But I think beautiful thing is, if you're profitable, a lot of other channels open up beyond just VC money. And the cost of capital of that is much lower compared to private equity, VC, and a lot of other channels. So like we have been working a lot of bank. The rate of interest is just 9.5%, and you end up saving a lot of equity, which you can use as a founder, than diluting so much earlier. But see, I think point is, if you raise limited capital, it create limitations. And you don't think that, okay, no, because I have a lot of capital, let me do 5 things without thinking through about it, right? If I know I have limited capital, I want to run it more efficiently, you will take maybe 1 or 2, decisions, thoughtful decisions, and which you think are really important for the brand business, rather than too many things that are not relevant. So it's basically,
limited capital forces.
It brings clarity, I guess, in decision making.
No, fully agree with that. And just staying on fundraising, I said I regret missing out on Minimalist. The second time we met Mohit, the reason we passed was the valuation. I'm going to put you in the spot. One advice that I always give our founders is don't stretch yourself thin on valuation. That's when you add a lot of risk because it comes with unrealistic growth expectations. But you raised at supernormal valuations and still made money for investors, stayed profitable, and it's a great story overall. So why don't you just talk through how should founders be thinking about valuations?
It's a difficult one to answer. I think, we have Unilever Venture. They invested in a Series A. They can answer this better, whether that was a super, higher valuation or a fair one. As a founder, you always feel, this number is the right number in your mind. At times, I guess it's a difference of context. At a very early stage, because where business is today, where the business will be 3 years from now, the number in your mind is very different than the number someone else can see. At times, you have far more clarity where the business will be, say, 6 months or 12 months from now, than someone else. And I'll not say that there's any right or wrong in that. We met a lot of investors. They will not have the same conviction of the business, say, 3 years from now, than what we'll have. And again, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I think as a founder, if you're like, true to yourself, you know exactly that, one, I'm not overselling. And I'm very, very confident of what I will be able to deliver. Because you have, these are your partners, right? End of the day, you have to make sense for every investor who's on a cap table. It has to be win-win for everyone. So rather than just optimizing on the valuation, what we optimize is, one, the right value, rather than underselling or overselling. I think more important is this is a relationship which will continue for maybe 5-7 years before someone exit. Finding someone who can think like you, finding someone who has high conviction on what you're building, with whom you can go back and talk to, about quarters which are not doing really good. Can you have those, hard conversations? I think that I realized with time is far better than anything else. And again, not because some of the guys are here. If I have to go back and take money again, I'll always take it from Unilever Ventures. Because, I mean, they have been very, very supportive. I don't know if Pawan is here or not, but yeah, I mean, really, really enjoyed this journey.
No, super. Nothing beats alignment with investors, and I think what I'm hearing is if you want to raise at a higher valuation, just get investors that have the same conviction in terms of the growth trajectory that you're seeing. The other aspect, Mohit, where you're an outlier in so many different parameters, but the one that that I think was super normal was on just the revenue per SKU, just how narrow and deep you were in your product portfolio. It's just having a narrow product portfolio simplifies the business massively, right? So what were the, decisions, guardrails you used in NPD to ensure that, you didn't suffer the SKU proliferation problem that a lot of BPC startups have?
See, every time we launch a product, there were two thoughts. One is, while of course it is easy to have multiple SKUs on digital, but whenever we go offline, what kind of portfolio we should have in our brand? So you can't have like 500 product and then figure out what should be your retail strategy because you don't have a hero product. So that was always in our mind. Second is when you talk about building a brand, every step that you take in terms of what should be your product, how your experience should be with the customer, that build the brand that we talk about, right? So if you launch a product which you think will add to the brand equity, and this is the product which I feel is far superior compared to other solutions available in the market. One, it will give you disproportionate business. Second, it will also build the brand equity. If I have 3 or 4 average product, the consolidated revenue of that can be similar to maybe 1, but that is not helping the brand in the long run. So like when we were running our NPD, we'll always sit together, we'll think that, okay, now say this year we'll launch maybe 6 product. Now think very carefully what this 6 product should be. And if we create a list of maybe 10, 20 things that our customers will ask us to work on, that these are problems and all, if you know that we'll not do more than 6, then that clarity also align your R&D team, your marketing team, everyone around. You cannot have quality and quantity both at the same time. We all work with a small R&D team. We also have limited functions. So if I know my entire team is focused on this 5 problem, we know we can do those 5 things better than 10 things where we do average. So I think that probably help a lot.
No, that clarity and conviction to restrict it to 6 product launches, that requires like amazing clarity of thinking and conviction. So, and which was very contrary to what the other brands were doing. So how did you, arrive at that thought process?
Yeah, I don't know, it's complicated again, every category, one we had what is a market share we would need from the category. And rather than thinking from product, we always started from problem. So very simply, so if I'm solving problem with aging, there can be maybe 2 or 3 ways in which it can be solved. And the idea is to solve skin aging, not having maybe 10 product in aging. So if there's a solution which we think is far better solution, and if we launch that product, then we should discontinue another product that we have in the portfolio because there's no point having maybe a subpar or a better product, right? Or we should upgrade. So that is how we always looked at our NPD. And I think second thing that also helped us, maybe after our first year, we started doing some bit of international expansions and looking at product that will this product survive say in a market like US. Today I can say this product is better than maybe other solutions in the product in the market in India. But what about it in US? What about launching this product say in GCC? If you feel this make no sense because this is a very mediocre product, then there's no point having it because you can't have a different product strategy that I launched 20 products in a year. 10 or 15 are relevant only in India, maybe just 2 or 3 are relevant in US, right? Then you're just killing the brand.
No, fair enough. And, so now if we just talk about distribution strategy, how did you think about which channels to prioritize? I assume you use the same framework on distribution as well.
So when we started, it was a very small team, just like probably every startup. Our marketing team was 2 or 3 members. It would be stupid to say we can do 5 or 7 different channels. So you have to figure out which are the 2, 3 important key channels which are relevant for your business. When we started, it was largely Amazon and Nykaa. And before even Nykaa, we thought we'll just launch Amazon. We did that for 3 months. And till the time we don't have conviction that we're able to do it better, we are able to get exactly what we were looking for. No point doing 5 or 6 things parallelly, right? We've seen so far in our experience, the channels will take you as seriously if they think there's a lot of potential in the brand. You'll get maybe the right account managers, you'll get a lot of visibility in the platform. And similarly, what we're talking about the growth also. See, you can continue to pump in money to get business unless and until your listings are coming on top. And gradually, you have a lot of organic sale. The channel make no sense because it will be like, very, very expensive. So whether I would want to spend all my time, say on Amazon, list 10 product and see within 3 months, I have at least 6 or 7 which are in top 3. That will at least make the channel more sustainable. And post that I can learn how to maybe work on, say, Nykaa or something else. So every 3 or 4 months, we started increasing. And we went in the order which are more relevant. But that was...
And what was the order back then, if you could talk through channels?
Yeah, it was D2C and Amazon, we started parallelly. After 3 months, we did Nykaa. And then I think after 4 or 5 months, we did Myntra or so. I think that was the order. So I think after 6 or 7, we were just on these 4 platforms.
So open one channel at a time, dominated before opening the next channel.
Yeah, and also again, see, it was maybe more relevant for us because we only had 2 or 3 people in our team. We all were learning how to make sense of the ads, how Amazon work, and Amazon work very differently compared to then Nykaa, then maybe quick commerce, right? So
no, that's an important lesson for a lot of early stage founders, because I do see a lot of them struggle when they open up too many channels and the pulls and pushes in each one of them.
I think first 3 months is very, very important when you start a channel. Go very aggressive, have a plan, give your 100%. You will get disproportionate value out of the platforms. Then again, when I said that, having 4 or 5, when things are very average and mediocre, their team will also lose interest. And if you expect that, you should get more time, more understanding, better account managers, it won't happen. So, again, what I'm saying that, 5 every channel versus 1 really exciting one, I will always take 1 exciting one.
Super. Now I'm going to fast forward to the exit decision. Mohit is still young. You were running a profitable brand, compounding really well. So how did you and your brother decide on going for a strategic exit? You have age on your side and you're in a market that's compounding beautifully. And I know there are founders approaching the scale Minimalist was in the room. So it'll be useful to just talk through that decision-making process.
It wasn't an easy one. And I'll not say that, it was, an easy discussion. We had this clarity and we knew exactly what needs to be done. So we started having these conversations around our Series B. And that is when we felt that, what is right for the brand. What exactly we are trying to achieve, say, in next 5 to 7 years. So on one side, because we all are from, new age D2C brand, we knew we understand the digital distribution better. But there's also a large part of offline distribution in India. Second is, while we have been saying that, building this iBeauty for the world and all, being present on 3 channels or 3 markets does not mean anything, right? Unless until you are deeply distributed in each market. And every country is unique in its own manner. You need to go build brand, you need to understand distribution, you need to have right, partnership and relationship. And when the discussion started happening with HUL, we felt they can actually come and help in both the areas. So whatever we can achieve in 10 years, if through them we can do that in maybe 3 to 5 years, that is good for both founders, also for the brand also. So I think when you start to see from those lenses, you feel this is an obvious decision. It's an easy one. On top of it, what matter then is the comfort with people. Because again, you have to figure out that, can you work with them for next 2 years? Do you see them running the brand and doing it in the right manner? Basically you see your baby maybe 5, 7 years later. that it continue to do what you thought of and basically, what you planned for. If you have alignment on that, I think the decision becomes much, much easier.
No, fair. I know we're out of time almost, but I want to close with one future-looking question before I open it up to the audience. You rode the awareness on ingredients and efficacy wave when you launched Minimalist. But as you look ahead next 5 years, what would be your top 2 themes in terms of consumer behavior shifts and top 2 picks in terms of customer acquisition strategy that that you think will be useful for the audience?
In personal care?
In personal care or consumer, you can decide.
See, if I have to start a skincare brand today, I will not start as a skincare brand. Just like, there's one more brand. I don't think people need that, right? There are too many options already in the market. I would have thought of a very specific gap or a need. I think there's a lot of room for specialized brands. And that can go in any spectrum. It can go into maybe solving some specific use cases. Say, be specialized as an aging brand or something else. It can also be in an age group. It can also be certain demographics that I would want to solve, right? Because right now, I think those are the ways in which you are relevant for a small set of users, which others are not doing better. And then on top of it, you're always able to add, more on to it, right? Because at least someone is noticing. And that is true to any other category also. Because I think the base case or the plain vanilla work that needs to be done has been done in the last 4 to 5 years. So I think that is how we would have started. Distribution depend again, on the category.
Distribution or even like marketing, right? Do you have any thoughts on AI-led brand discovery, etc.?
I will again put disproportionate time and effort in UGC, which we have done initially on our own brand. So I think if you are able to make your consumers your brand evangelist, they will talk about it. There has to be something in the brand which people share. And I think that, at least as of now, either the content creators or AI or any other sort of marketing can take it from you, right? Because that is more credible. And on top of it, it is free. I think everyone probably sitting in this room is also on Instagram. So in a way, we all are content creators. Someone may have 300 followers versus maybe 30,000. But I think your influence on those 300 is far more versus someone with maybe 30,000.
Yeah, user-generated content, and we spoke about it in the morning. Reddit is becoming very, very relevant even to win the trust of AI agents. Now, let me just open it up to the audience. We are running on tight timelines. Maybe a couple of questions before we wrap up. Any questions for Mohit? Oh, there's one right at the back.
Hi, Mohit. Thanks for inspiring a generation of entrepreneurs. I'm Govind. I'm the CEO and founder at WanderOn. I just want to ask one question on behalf of, I think, all of the founders here. So like a lot of us are at a scale of around 70, 80 crores kind of an ARR, and we are aspiring to do like a 500 crore in next 3 to 5 years. I'm sure you must have met a lot of these founders who are able to do that. Is there any unique founder trait that you feel is there, which is constant among all the founders who are able to do it versus not?
No, I think Hari and Deepak can answer that better. They would have seen this space more closely. I don't know. What are your views?
No, now you've started investing as well. They want to know. They hear from us all the time, so they know our answer.
I want to know like a founder's perspective also. Or maybe what are, let's say, the unique traits that you have while you have scaled the company?
I think the common are, hustle is always, the common. I think you'll always have those, tough times and all. But I think having sharp clarity on your category industry, I think very, very important. And not getting distracted by what is happening outside of your own space. I think you should be cognizant about what is happening externally. But too many times I've seen people that, every now and then I'm chasing certain thing just because there's a lot of noise. If you're able to cut down on the noise and find those signals, I think, that trait is important. A lot happened in our own space also. And you always feel that, this is very exciting and I should do it. But a lot of the time, do you have, the conviction to say no to 9 things and just go with that one? And you'll keep getting those, ideas from your, co-founders, from friends, from your colleagues, from even investors also. I think no one is wrong in that. You are the captain of the ship. You need to understand what is right for this business. And doing that one thing which is right for you which you think you can do better than anyone else, in saying no to the 9, I think that is where probably the journey of 100 to 500 is being created.
Thank you.
And fully echo that and go in at the risk of sharing an investor point of view. The other common thing I've heard from founders in the 100 to 500 journey is that's the phase when it's all about building the team. 0 to 100 is more just the founders themselves hustling, and it's more often than not founders with a very junior team. 100 to 500 is where that's like reinventing themselves in that journey. Yeah. One more question. We have time for one more question. Oh, wow. We have a silent audience. But thank you, Mohit. A big round of applause for Mohit. He'll be around, and I think we have some goodies for you.